Shaquille O'Neal has spent over $3.5 million on cars. But here's the crazy part. He can't fit in a single one of them without major surgery. I'm not talking about Shaq getting surgery. I'm talking about every car in his garage getting completely rebuilt from the ground up just so the big diesel can squeeze behind the wheel. But here's what most people don't realize. Every single car in Shaq's garage tells a story of engineering madness. We're not just talking about bigger seats and extended legroom. We're talking about completely rebuilding cars from the ground up, stretching chassis by entire feet, and creating automotive Frankensteins that shouldn't exist but somehow do. In this video, I'm going to break down Shaq's complete custom car collection, and I guarantee you've never seen anything like what these fabricators had to do just to make these machines Shaq-sized. From the Ferrari that required a front-mounted fuel tank to the Lamborghini that got stretched by 12 inches, every car has a story that'll blow your mind. The smart car that broke the internet. Let's start with the most ridiculous vehicle in Shaq's collection, and trust me, that's saying something. We're talking about a Smart for Two, a car so small it makes a golf cart look spacious. Now, imagine cramming a 7'1" NBA legend into something designed for people who shop in the kids section. Shaq actually owns two of these automotive torture devices. The first one he bought back in 2008 was a blue convertible version with custom wheels. But the one that really broke the internet was his 2019 blacked out Smart for Two that YouTuber Adam's Apple spotted him driving through New York City. The footage went viral because it looked like a circus act. This massive human being somehow operating what appeared to be a toy car. Here's the thing though, Shaq didn't just squeeze into these cars and call it a day. Even with something as basic as a smart car, modifications had to be made. The seat had to be pushed back as far as physically possible, and even then, his knees were practically touching his chin. But that's vintage Shaq. If it seems impossible, he's going to find a way to make it work, even if it looks absolutely ridiculous. The smart cars represent something important about Shaq's approach to vehicles. It's not always about having the biggest, most expensive ride. Sometimes it's about proving a point, having fun, and giving people something to talk about. And brother, mission accomplished. But here's the thing. If you think a smart car is crazy, wait until you see what Shaq did to a Ferrari that cost him $250,000 in modifications alone. But before we get to that insanity, if you're loving this deep dive into the most ridiculous custom car collection ever built, smash that like button and hit subscribe because we've got 16 more vehicles to cover, and each one gets more unbelievable than the last. Trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next. The Ferrari that required surgery. Now, let's talk about one of the most extreme custom jobs in automotive history. Shaq's 1998 Ferrari 355 F1 Spider. When most people think about fitting into a Ferrari, they worry about whether they can afford it. When Shaq thinks about fitting into a Ferrari, he worries about whether the laws of physics will allow it. The Ferrari 355 is a mid-engine masterpiece, but it was designed for humans of normal proportions. Shaq is not a human of normal proportions. So, what did he do? He basically performed open-heart surgery on this Italian stallion. First problem, the soft top. Shaq's head was hitting the roof even with the top down. Solution? Remove the soft top entirely and turn it into what he called a forever convertible. No roof, no problem. Second problem, his knees were jammed into the dashboard like he was trying to drive from the back seat. This is where things got really crazy. The fabricators had to remove the factory fuel tank and install a front-mounted tank just to create enough space to push the seats back 9 inches. Think about that for a second. They moved the gas tank to the front of the car just so Shaq could have legroom. But wait, there's more. The factory seats were too narrow, so they installed aftermarket extra-wide racing seats, custom embroidered with his Superman logo. And because no Shaq car is complete without a sound system that can wake the dead, they installed a top-of-the-line Alpine system with drivers and tweeters in the door panels. The license plate read Shaq F1 to honor the Formula One inspired paddle shift transmission. This car cost around $350,000 to modify, and when Shaq eventually sold it, it went for just $65,000. That's a $250,000 loss, but for Shaq, it was worth every penny to prove that a 7'1" giant could drive a Ferrari. The Lamborghini that got stretched like taffy. If you thought the Ferrari modifications were extreme, wait until you hear about what happened to Shaq's Lamborghini Gallardo. The Gallardo is already a low, wide, aggressive supercar that most normal-sized people find cramped. For Shaq, it was like trying to drive a coffin. Enter the Gafoglio family metal crafters, a company that normally works on private jets and aerospace projects. These guys took one look at the Gallardo and said, "Hold our beer, we're about to perform automotive magic." They stretched the entire car by 12 inches. Not just the interior, the entire chassis, roof, side windows, doors, everything. This wasn't some hack job either. These fabricators used their aerospace expertise to maintain the structural integrity while completely reimagining the proportions. The crazy part? They did such a good job that you can barely tell it's been modified unless you know what to look for. The Gallardo still looks like a Gallardo, just bigger. It's like someone hit the zoom button on the entire car. This modification cost Shaq around $600,000, making it one of the most expensive custom jobs in his collection. But here's the kicker. He eventually crashed it in Florida and sold the wreckage for $110,000. That's a $500,000 oops. But when you're worth $400 million, sometimes you just shrug and move on to the next project. The Corvette that became a limousine. Shaq's latest automotive adventure might be his most insane yet, a custom Chevrolet Corvette. C8 Z06 that's been stretched by 20 inches. Let me repeat that. They took America's favorite mid-engine supercar and made it 20 inches longer. Effortless Motors in California took on this impossible project, and what they created is basically a Corvette limousine. They didn't just add length, they completely redesigned the door panels, created custom stretch body panels, reimagined the roofline, and fabricated a new engine cover and rear section. But here's where it gets really interesting. They kept that nasty 670 horsepower, naturally aspirated 5.5 liter, LT6, flat plane crank, V8, completely untouched. So you've got a car that's longer than some pickup trucks, but still has the heart of a track monster. The fabrication process was a nightmare. The custom glass kept cracking during the build, pushing the project months behind schedule. On delivery day, both windows cracked again, but Effortless Motors still brought the car to Shaq's house because he'd been waiting long enough. That's customer service right there. This build represents the evolution of Shaq's car collection. He's moved from just making cars bigger to creating completely new automotive categories. This isn't just a stretched Corvette. It's a statement that says if you dream big enough and have deep enough pockets, anything is possible. The pickup truck that costs more than your house. When most people need a pickup truck, they go to a Ford dealership and drive off the lot. When Shaq needs a pickup truck, he starts with a Ford F650, a truck normally used for commercial purposes, and turns it into a luxury palace on wheels. The F650 is powered by a 6.7-liter turbocharged diesel V8 that cranks out 330 horsepower and 750 pound-feet of torque. That's enough power to tow just about anything, but Shaq didn't buy this truck to tow things. He bought it because it was one of the only vehicles big enough for him to fit in comfortably without modifications. But of course, Shaq couldn't leave it stock. The team at SuperTruck customized the interior to be nothing short of first-class luxury. We're talking plush heated leather seats, premium finishes, and a top-tier infotainment system. It's basically a rolling VIP lounge that happens to have the towing capacity of a semi-truck. The total cost? $124,000. That's more than most people spend on their house. But for Shaq, it's just another toy in his expensive collection. And honestly, when you see this thing on the road, it makes perfect sense. This is what a pickup truck looks like when it's designed for a giant. The Cadillac that started it all. Let's talk about the car that really started Shaq's custom car obsession, his 2002 Cadillac Escalade. Fresh off the Lakers' third consecutive championship win, Shaq decided to celebrate in style by purchasing and fully customizing an Escalade that would become the template for every custom car that followed. This Escalade sits on massive 26-inch wheels because anything smaller would look ridiculous on a car designed for Shaq. But the real showstopper is the elongated scissor-style doors. These aren't just for show. They're functional modifications that make it easier for a 7'1" giant to get in and out of the vehicle. The sound system is absolutely bonkers. 8 Audiobahn 12-inch subwoofers that you can probably hear from space. The exterior is burgundy with blacked-out trim, and the interior features a Rolls-Royce style starlight headliner that turns the cabin into a starry night sky. The grille has a custom diesel script, referencing one of Shaq's many nicknames. This car established the template that every future Shaq vehicle would follow. Massive wheels, custom doors, insane sound system, and Superman logos everywhere. The Mercedes that lost its roof. Shaq's relationship with Mercedes-Benz has produced some truly wild creations, but none more extreme than his custom S550 convertible. Here's the thing. Mercedes never made an S550 convertible in the configuration Shaq wanted, so he made his own. He started with a perfectly good S550 sedan and sent it to Lawrencer, who performed what can only be described as automotive surgery. They chopped the roof off, stretched the car to create more legroom, and installed rear suicide doors for extra flair. The car sits on 22-inch rims and features a pearl white paint job with tan leather upholstery. It's classy, elegant, and undeniably Shaq. He ordered this car during his championship-winning season with the Miami Heat, and it remains one of the most extravagant cars in his collection. But here's the crazy part. After all that custom work, Shaq eventually sold it back to the shop that built it. That's just how Shaq rolls. He gets bored with cars quickly, no matter how much time and money went into making them perfect. The Dodge Army. Shaq has a serious love affair with Dodge, and his collection proves it. He currently owns 4 different Dodge vehicles, each one more insane than the last. First up is the Dodge SRT Demon, a car so powerful it comes with a warning label. This thing is basically a street-legal dragster that can embarrass Ferraris, Lamborghinis, and Teslas at the stoplight. Shaq loves this car because it matches his personality. Big, loud, and impossible to ignore. Then there's his wide-body Hellcat Challenger convertible sitting on 24-inch wheels. This is a car that shouldn't exist. Dodge never made a Hellcat convertible, so Shaq had Drop Top Customs create one just for him. The result is a 707 horsepower convertible muscle car that's as American as apple pie and twice as loud. His Charger SRT Hellcat Red Eye is even more extreme, featuring UFO green headlights, red underglow lights, and a wide body kit that makes it look like it's ready for the apocalypse. This car makes 797 horsepower, which is more than most people will ever need, but for Shaq, it's just getting started. The crown jewel of his Dodge collection is the Shaq Cat No. 2, a 2022 wide-body Charger Hellcat that makes a wild 900 horsepower. This car is painted in Nardo gray and represents the pinnacle of American muscle car engineering. The engineering nightmare behind every build. Now, before we get to the absolute madness that is Shaq's Apocalypse truck, I need to take a minute to talk about something that most people don't understand. The sheer engineering complexity of what these fabricators are dealing with when they take on a Shaq project. See, when you or I buy a car, we might add some aftermarket wheels, maybe a cold air intake, call it a day. When Shaq buys a car, teams of engineers have to sit down and basically ask themselves, how do we rebuild this entire vehicle while keeping it safe, functional, and street legal? Take weight distribution, for example. Every car is engineered with a specific weight balance in mind. When you start moving fuel tanks, extending chassis, and adding custom body panels, you're completely throwing off that balance. The fabricators working on Shaq's cars have to recalculate suspension geometry, brake bias, and even tire pressure recommendations. Ryan Friedlinghaus from West Coast Customs has said that Shaq's projects pushed his team to become better builders. They couldn't just wing it. They had to think like aerospace engineers. When you're stretching a Lamborghini by 12 inches, you're not just making it longer. You're dealing with torsional rigidity, crash safety, aerodynamics, and a dozen other factors that could turn a supercar into a death trap if you get it wrong. The Gafoglio family metal crafters, who stretched Shaq's Gallardo, literally used their aerospace division expertise for that project. These are people who work on private jets and military aircraft, and they said the Lamborghini project was one of their most challenging builds ever. They had to maintain the structural integrity of a car designed to handle 200+ miles per hour speeds while completely reimagining its proportions. But here's what really blows my mind: the custom glass work. When you extend a car's roofline or change door configurations, you can't just order replacement windows from the factory. Every piece of glass has to be custom manufactured. That's why Shaq's Corvette project kept getting delayed. The custom windows kept cracking during installation because they were pushing the limits of what's physically possible with automotive glass. And let's talk about the electrical systems. Modern cars have hundreds of sensors, computers, and safety systems that all have to communicate with each other. When you start chopping up a car and rebuilding it, you're potentially disrupting dozens of these systems. The fabricators have to be part mechanic, part electrical engineer, and part computer programmer just to keep everything working. The liability alone is staggering. When West Coast Customs hands Shaq the keys to a completely rebuilt Ferrari or Lamborghini, they're essentially saying, we've re-engineered this $1 million supercar, and we're confident it won't kill you. That takes some serious expertise and even more serious insurance. This is why Shaq's car collection isn't just impressive from an entertainment standpoint. It's a showcase of American custom fabrication at its absolute peak. These shops are pushing the boundaries of what's possible in automotive modification, and they're doing it for a guy who refuses to accept that something can't be done. The Apocalypse Machine. Speaking of extreme Dodge products, let's talk about Shaq's Apocalypse monster truck. This started life as a Ram 1500 TRX, which is already one of the most capable pickup trucks ever made. But Shaq looked at it and said, not extreme enough. Traffic Jams Motorsports took the TRX and turned it into something that looks ready for the end of the world. Every single panel of the original truck has been replaced with armored ones and painted in Kevlar. This isn't just a truck, it's a mobile fortress. The Apocalypse TRX represents Shaq's philosophy taken to its logical extreme. If you're going to do something, do it bigger and better than anyone else. This truck could probably survive a nuclear war, and it definitely turns heads wherever it goes. The electric revolution. As the automotive world goes electric, Shaq has embraced the change with his typical enthusiasm. His Tesla Cybertruck collection alone is worth more than most people's entire car collections. He started with a basic Cybertruck in Las Vegas, but when he moved back to Atlanta, he didn't want to ship it across the country. So he bought a second one, this time in black, on black with 26-inch black wheels and a wide-body kit. This was the first wide-body Cybertruck in the world. But Shaq wasn't done. He got a third Cybertruck with a glossy maroon wrap and massive 26-inch 4G auto wheels. Each one of these trucks represents the cutting edge of electric vehicle technology, but with Shaq's signature style. His 2025 Cadillac Escalade IQ is another electric masterpiece. Working with effortless motors, Shaq created an all-black electric SUV sitting on Cactus Jack 26-inch wheels, a nod to rapper Travis Scott. This thing has 750 horsepower in Velocity Max mode and represents the future of luxury electric vehicles. The Lucid Air transformation. Perhaps the most technically impressive modification in Shaq's current collection is his custom Lucid Air sedan. The Lucid Air is already a masterpiece of electric luxury, but for Shaq, it wasn't quite roomy enough. West Coast Customs took on the challenge of making this 6.5-foot wide, 16-foot long sedan work for a 7-foot giant. Their solution was radical. They turned the sleek 4-door electric sedan into a custom 2-door coupe with massive front doors. They straight up removed the rear doors so Shaq could easily get in and out. The car rolls on custom rims featuring Superman logos, and the front badge now reads Diesel instead of Lucid. Performance-wise, this ride is a monster with 1,234 horsepower and a 0 to 60 time of 1.89 seconds. This is basically a rocket ship disguised as a luxury sedan. The fabrication work on this car is absolutely mind-blowing. Converting a 4-door sedan into a 2-door coupe while maintaining structural integrity and keeping all the advanced electric systems working, that's not modification. That's automotive wizardry. The Rolls-Royce royalty. No luxury car collection is complete without Rolls-Royce, and Shaq's got two of the finest examples money can buy. His Rolls-Royce Cullinan in burgundy, his favorite color, sits on custom Superman-themed wheels, with a Superman logo embedded in the grille. Ryan from West Coast Customs added a Mansory body kit that gives the Cullinan a more aggressive stance while maintaining that factory elegance. It's the perfect balance of luxury and attitude, which pretty much sums up Shaq's entire approach to life. But the real showstopper is his custom Rolls-Royce Phantom. This isn't just any Phantom, it's a Mansory version with a slight body kit, Superman grille logo, and custom carbon fiber add-ons. The 10-spoke aftermarket wheels and chrome accents make this car look like it belongs to automotive royalty. These Rolls-Royce vehicles represent the pinnacle of Shaq's collection. They're not just transportation, they're statements of success, craftsmanship, and the American dream realized. The three-wheeled adventures. Shaq's collection isn't limited to 4-wheeled vehicles. His Polaris Slingshot collection shows that sometimes the most fun comes in unconventional packages. The Sling Shaq is a custom 4-seat version of what's normally a 2-seater, featuring 18 speakers, including massive subwoofers and a 28-inch overhead soundbar. Underground Auto Styling in Florida created this masterpiece, with white, diamond-quilted leather seats and ice blue LED lighting. If one insane slingshot wasn't enough, Shaq had West Coast Customs build him a wine-colored version covered in Superman logos. He also owns a Vader Roadster, a 3-wheeled autocycle that's surprisingly roomy for long-legged drivers. With a 1.5-liter turbocharged engine and featherlight build, it zips around with ease, even with its chassis extended to fit Shaq's massive frame. The Bentley Impulse Buy. Here's a story that perfectly captures Shaq's approach to car buying. Back when he was playing for the Lakers, he used to drive by a Rolls-Royce dealership in Beverly Hills. One day, he decided to stop in wearing shorts, a tank top, and flip-flops. Mike Tyson was there buying a couple of Bentleys when Shaq asked a salesman about the price of a car. The salesman's response? "Can you afford it, sonny boy?" That pissed Shaq off so much that he bought 3 Bentleys on the spot, a Continental GT, an Azure, and another Continental. The total damage? Over $1 million in about 10 minutes. Shaq later admitted he wondered if it was a mistake, but it perfectly illustrates his philosophy. Don't underestimate the big man. The Bentley Azure required significant modifications, because Shaq's knee kept hitting the steering wheel. West Coast Customs had to reconfigure the entire driver's side, adjusting the seat, repositioning the pedals, and making sure Shaq could actually turn the wheel without injuring himself. The custom Chevrolet Express. One of the most over-the-top vehicles in Shaq's collection was his Chevrolet Express G1500 van. Now, a Chevy van might not scream celebrity ride, but when it's decked out in Louis Vuitton quilted leather, sitting on 20-inch rims with air suspension, and packed with enough gadgets to turn it into a rolling VIP lounge, it earns its place in any serious car collection. Inside, this van was pure luxury and entertainment. We're talking about a 100-inch HD movie projector, DVD player, and even an Xbox. Shaq loved being chauffeured around in this tricked-out van, and he didn't hold back on upgrades. Superman logos were everywhere. Wheels, headrests, interior trim, you name it. Despite its jaw-dropping customization and celebrity history, selling it wasn't easy. Originally listed for $45,000, buyers weren't exactly lining up. Maybe it was too custom for most people's taste. Eventually, the price dropped to $30,000, and someone finally took the plunge. The Vader Roadster movie car. One of the most unique vehicles in Shaq's collection was his Vader Roadster, a kit car that looked like it just rolled off a Hollywood movie set. In fact, if you've seen the 2016 movie Suicide Squad, you'll recognize this car as the Joker's flashy ride. The Vader Roadster is built on the bones of an Infiniti G35, but you'd never know it from looking at it. This thing is all about dramatic angles, aggressive lines, and a look that screams, "I own the road." It takes someone with Shaq's presence to pull off a car like this in real life. Shaq had his built by Vader's Florida shop, and the result was absolutely sinister. The Infiniti G35 platform it's based on has a huge engine bay, so builders can swap in whatever powerhouse they want. Shaq's version was a mystery in terms of power, but you can bet it packed enough punch to keep up with his other supercars. Like many of his cars, Shaq didn't hold on to the Vader for too long. He listed it on eBay in 2021 because when you're Shaq, you always need to make room for something bigger and better. The Ford F-650 fleet. Shaq's love affair with Ford F-650 trucks deserves its own chapter. These aren't your typical pickup trucks. They're commercial-grade monsters that most people use for towing heavy equipment. But for Shaq, they're just daily drivers that happen to be big enough for him to fit in comfortably. His primary F-650 features a 6.7-liter turbocharged diesel V8, making 330 horsepower and 750 pound-feet of torque. The team at Super Truck customized the interior to be nothing short of first-class luxury, with plush heated leather seats, premium finishes, and a top-tier infotainment system. But one F-650 wasn't enough. Shaq also owned an F-650 XLT Super Duty, an F-650 Extreme SUV, and even an F-650 Excursion 6-door diesel version. Each one was customized to his specifications, proving that when Shaq finds something he likes, he goes all in. The classic American muscle. While Shaq is known for his modern custom creations, he also appreciates classic American iron. His 1964 Chevrolet Impala was completely restored by Chip Foose and the overhauling team with everything new. Floor, fenders, rocker panels, doors, a new GM Performance LS engine, new wheels, and a new chassis. The team extended the steering column by 6 inches and dropped the driver's side floor by several more inches to give Shaq the room he needed. It's basically a brand new car that looks like a classic, and it handles like a modern luxury sedan. This Impala represents Shaq's appreciation for automotive history while still requiring the custom modifications that make his collection so unique. Even with a classic car, physics is physics, and accommodating a 7'1" frame requires serious engineering. The Mercedes police car. One of the most unusual vehicles in Shaq's collection was his Mercedes S65 AMG police car. This V12-powered beast made 600 horsepower and was designed to look like an official police vehicle. Given that Shaq is actually a licensed police deputy in Georgia, this car made perfect sense. With a Hellcat, Shaq can catch up to anybody he wants, and once he steps out, all problems are solved immediately. I've heard Georgia's crime rate went to 0 when Shaq came into service. The man is probably the most famous cop ever, and having a 600 horsepower Mercedes as his patrol car just adds to the legend. The tour bus and yacht. Shaq's collection isn't limited to cars. His custom tour bus was shockingly even bigger than his other rides, featuring Superman logos and Shaq written all over it. The interior was pure luxury, but the outside was impossible to miss. This thing was a rolling billboard for the Shaq brand. And then there's his yacht. The Shaq yacht is estimated at a whopping $130 million and can hold up to 24 guests with a crew of 40. It's a floating palace that makes his car collection look like pocket change. The evolution of a collection. What's fascinating about Shaq's car collection is how it's evolved over the years. In his NBA heyday, he owned more than 40 cars, most of them gas-guzzling monsters with massive V8 engines and sound systems that could wake the dead. But as the world has gone electric, Shaq has embraced the change. His current collection is increasingly focused on electric vehicles, the Cybertrucks, the Escalade IQ, the Lucid Air. He's proving that you can be environmentally conscious and still have the most insane car collection on the planet. The constant throughout his collection has been the need for custom fabrication. Every single car requires modifications to accommodate his massive frame. We're not talking about simple seat adjustments. We're talking about complete re-engineering of vehicles that were never designed for someone of Shaq's proportions. The cost of being a giant. When you add up all the modifications, custom work, and pure purchase prices, Shaq has spent well over $3.5 million on his car collection. But that number doesn't tell the whole story. The real cost is in the engineering, the fabrication, the trial and error of making impossible things possible. Take the Ferrari, $350,000 in modifications for a car he eventually sold for $65,000. The Lamborghini, $600,000 in custom work for a car he crashed and sold for $110,000. These aren't just cars to Shaq. They're experiments in what's possible when you refuse to accept limitations. The legacy. Shaq's car collection represents something bigger than just expensive toys. It's a testament to American ingenuity, custom fabrication, and the idea that if you dream big enough and work hard enough, you can literally reshape the world to fit your needs. Every car in his collection required someone to say, "That's impossible," and then figure out how to make it possible anyway. The fabricators, engineers, and custom shops that have worked on Shaq's cars have pushed the boundaries of what's achievable in automotive modification. From West Coast Customs to effortless motors, from aerospace engineers to custom metal crafters, Shaq's collection has employed some of the most talented people in the automotive world. And the results speak for themselves. Cars that shouldn't exist, but do. Vehicles that defy physics and common sense, but somehow work perfectly. The future. As Shaq continues to build his 2.0 electric fleet, we can expect even more insane creations. The automotive world is changing rapidly, with new electric vehicles offering incredible performance and luxury. But one thing will never change. Shaq will always need custom modifications to make these cars work for his massive frame. The next generation of Shaq's collection will likely include the 2025 Dodge Charger Daytona EV, the Rivian R1T, and whatever other electric monsters the automotive world can dream up. And you can bet that each one will require the same level of custom fabrication that has made his collection legendary. Shaq's car collection isn't just about having the most expensive or the fastest cars. It's about proving that limitations are just starting points for creativity. When the automotive world said, "Sorry, we don't make cars for giants," Shaq said, "Hold my championship rings and watch this." That's the real story of Shaq's car collection. It's not just about the cars, it's about the refusal to accept that something can't be done. And in a world where we're constantly told what's impossible, that's a pretty inspiring message. So the next time you see a video of Shaq squeezing into a smart car or cruising in his stretched Corvette, remember that you're not just looking at a funny sight gag. You're looking at the result of incredible engineering, custom fabrication, and the American dream taken to its logical extreme. Because when you're Shaquille O'Neal, the only limit is your imagination and your willingness to pay for the custom work to make that imagination reality.